Okay, today we're talking about shallow versus steep. So what do I mean by shallow versus steep? I'm specifically talking about the downswing or the transition in your golf swing, right? So there are things that steepen the club and there are things that shallow the club. So let's first explain what good players do. So what good players do is as they go to the top of their backswing, and some have their arms deeper, some have them more vertical, but most good players will do this. As the club's starting to reach the top of the backswing, they have a little lateral move. That little lateral move brings their arms closer to their body, creates something called lag, and that tends to have a little shallowing mechanism. Okay, so the first thing they do is they shift, and then they have what we call a little bit of rock, a little bit of tilt to their spine, which keeps the club shallow. And then what they do is they rotate their body, which gets the club out in front of them. That's a steepener. And then they push against the ground and use those forces to deliver the club to the ball, right? That's what good players do. So here's what tends to happen if you struggle with something like over the top or a slice. What you do is you go to the top of your backswing, can be here, doesn't really matter where it is, but your first move, rather than having this little bit of lateral and a little bit of what we call side bend, right, which shallows the club, what you do is you get to the top of your backswing and the first thing you do is you rotate your upper torso and your lower body together. When I do that, that's a steepener. Notice how the club moves out and gets in what we call a steep position. Well, now I'm in this no man's land because from here, if I release the club, the ball's going to go left, and depending on the club face position, it can go left of left. And then if I sense that it's steep and I'm twisting, then usually what I'll do is try and save it at the end, and that's where you can get your chicken wings, your early extenders, but a lot of times they're out of position, they'll leave the face open, and you'll hit a ball that starts to the left of your target and slices back to the right of your target, right? Now, the opposite to that would be some players do the opposite. They block the ball for a right-handed golfer, a ball that starts right, or they hook the golf ball. Well, those players go to the top and they have that little shallowing move. They bump and they may have a little lateral or a little bit what we call side bend, which shallows it, but they never stop. So what they do is they keep going laterally. They don't have a lot of rotation and the club drops too far behind them. The club is going out to the right, and that is your block and your hook, because if I leave the face there, it's going this way. If I release the club from there, it's starting to the right and going to the left. So that's a shallowing mechanism. So again, the best players in the world have a combination of them both. And what you need to know is what are the shallowers and the steepeners. So anytime I'm too steep, I'm probably twisting. So for you, you need a little bit of either side bend or a little bit lateral. So from face on, you need a little bit lateral, like a little bit of a bump, or the lead shoulder working a little bit up. That'll give you time to shallow the club. If you just twist, it's coming over, and that's a steepener, right? And for those of you who go the opposite way and you're going a little bit too much this way, then you need something that's going to create rotation, and this is where the ground can come in. So if I get to the top of my backswing and I shift into this lead side and I keep going, that's too shallow. But if I get into my lead side and then I know how to push, pushing is a steepener. That's going to rotate and get the club back out in front of me. So you need to learn how to push better. So here's some things body mechanic wise that can affect that. So we do a couple tests at TPI. Torso rotation test. I want to stabilize my lower body, cross my arms across my chest. What I want you to do is keep your shoulders perfectly still. Can you separate your lower body from your upper body, keeping your shoulders perfectly still? If you're this person, and it feels like you're locked, then guess what? You're a steepener, right? So if I'm steepening the club, then I need to do something about that. Well, there are a couple quick fixes that you can do without fixing your body. Ultimately, we'd like you to fix your body. If you're one of those twisters that's always steep, then get the club deeper. So what I mean by that is bend over a little bit more. On the backswing, get your arms more across your body so that when you turn this and this together, you actually come down on plane. You don't come over the plane and steepen the club where you're going to hit a pull or a slice, right? So that's something you can do. Now, other steepeners are things like the shoulder. So for instance, shoulder rotation, I want my shoulder to be able to go 90 and then beyond. So look at my shoulder, I have rotation in my shoulder. If I had the club up here and I could do that with my shoulder, I could shallow the club. If I can't do that, then I'm gonna steepen it. So I need to think about where should I put the club. Anytime you're a steepener, get the club deeper, more behind you. The more you get it behind you, the more it won't come over, and you might just bring it right down on plane and it might straighten out that pull or that slice that you have, right? Now, you can also use things like the wrist, so like wrist bend. So we have flexion and extension in the wrist. So anytime I flex this wrist backwards like this, right? Then by all means, then I'm gonna shallow the club. Shallow the club. If I go the opposite way, I'm gonna steepen the club. You use that a lot in wedges and touch around the greens. But wrists can be a shallower and a steepener. Shoulders can be a shallower and a steepener. Twisting, any kind of twisting move is a steepener. Any kind of lateral move is a shallower. So those are combinations of things you need to know. If I'm too much the other way and the ball's going over this way, then I need something that's gonna steepen the club. You have good lateral. You're moving lateral. You might just be moving lateral too much, or you might be moving lateral too early. Now, if I go lateral too much, now all of a sudden the club is behind me. I've got to get it back in front of me. So anytime I go lateral too much and this club's behind me, I've got to steepen it to get out in front of me. The easiest way to do that is push, because if you push with the ground, it'll get the club out and get rid of some angle. If I just keep going this way and my butt goes underneath me, early extending, then I'm gonna shallow too much, and that's gonna be a problem. So always look at your golf swing. Are you somebody that tends to miss the ball out to the right for a right-handed golfer with curvature back to the target, or to the left for a right-handed golfer with curvature back the other way? If you're on this side, you're probably twisting and steepening. If you're on this side, you're probably shallowing too much. So figure out which one you are, and then figure out how to steepen or shallow, and it'll help you fix either over the top or early extension, and a variety of other faults as well.